Hi, I'm Gabriel, and I'm a part of the youth group at United Christian Church of Austin. Voting is the basis of democracy, and by voting, members of democratic nations are able to express their opinions and needs to their government. This is true in our democratic republic in the United States, and by voting, citizens can effectively use the systems in place to work for their benefit. Because of this, those who choose not to vote are hurting themselves and their peers more than they are positively affecting anyone else. This aside, there are some who don't even give themselves the opportunity to make the choice to vote. By not registering themselves to vote or having a volunteer deputy registrar help them get registered, people deny themselves the option of whether or not to vote and completely nullify their right to express their opinion in an effective manner. Why is this important to us? Well, because we are the future and the present, and we have a voice. Now let's learn about why our voice matters.
This dollar represents each of the 21.6 million eligible voters living in Texas. We'll split it up into 100 pennies, which will each represent 1% of this group. In Texas, 1 in every 4 eligible voters isn't registered to vote. This takes our dollar down to 75 cents, or 16 million registered voters. In 2016, only 46% of those registered voters voted in the presidential election. This takes our 75% down to only 35%. This means only 35% of Texans chose to voice their opinion in the selection of our president. Only this many people made the important decision of who would sit in the Oval Office. More than half of all eligible voters in Texas didn't express their voice and didn't get to decide. Now let's go back to our original pool of eligible voters and assume that this group of people is voting in a midterm election. In a midterm election year, the senators, governor, and representatives of a state are elected. In 2018, only 1 in every 4 of your dollar's worth of eligible Texans voted in the general election, meaning that only this many people voted in the election to determine who would represent Texans from the legislative branch of the U.S. government, and in state and in local office. Primary elections are held in March and decide which candidates are on the ballot for November elections. In the 2018 election, only 10% of Texan voters participated in the March primaries. Runoff elections are the elections in which candidates are chosen by each party for seats that were too close to call in the primary elections, and this election decides which candidate from each party is to be voted upon later. Only about 5% of voters in Texas voted in the Texas runoffs in recent history, deciding 90 to 95 of the state's legislature with only about 6,000 opinions out of about 16 million eligible voters. With so few already voting and decisive votes being decided by margins in the hundreds, every vote matters, in any party on any issue. These percentages make candidates not have to campaign to the populace, but to the voters. Such practices produce policy promises that are meant to entice the vocal majority instead of all the people who would be affected by such policy. Every vote matters, and registering voters is the first step towards helping others help themselves.
Hi, my name's Anna, and now that you have some idea of how many people actually vote in each election, I want to convince you to be a voter. There are countless reasons why someone should vote, but some of the most important ones are that every vote counts, voting allows you to be the change you wish to see in the world, and if you are a young person, a part of the millennial generation or Gen Z, you are a part of the largest and most diverse voting demographic. This means that if we all vote, all of us young people, we can elect officials who will enact policies that will serve us. We are on a historic wave of electing women and people of color and young people and LGBTQ plus people. And to continue this wave, we need to keep voting for them until our school boards and our city councils and our Congress and our White House reflect who we are as a society. Thank you for listening.
Hi, I'm Morgan, and some of you may be getting ready to vote this year or are going to be voting in the next coming years. So we have some tips to help make sure you are ready and prepared to cast your important vote. First, you should confirm that you are eligible to vote. You're able to vote if you're a U.S. citizen, if you're 18 years or older, and if you meet your state residency requirements. If you meet all these guidelines, make sure you check your registration status to see if you are registered or need to register. Another thing to do ahead of time is to learn all about the candidates. Whether it's the presidential election or a local election, it's important to educate yourself using trustworthy sources so you can make a more informed decision. Make sure the information you're looking at is from a trustworthy source to avoid being misinformed. Another step to take is to plan ahead and plan out where and when you will be going to vote. So some voting locations can get backed up and have long waiting times. So there are a couple ways you can avoid that. One is that you can check to see if your state has early voting available. And another way is, I know here in Austin, there is a website where you can check the voting location and their wait time, so you can choose which location would be best for you. So you should check to see if your area has a similar website to that. Lastly, you should make sure you come prepared and bring an ID. Some states require a photo ID, like your driver's license, and some states require just a non-photo ID. Make sure you know and research your state's voting policies because they vary a lot between the different states. So I hope this was a quick and helpful voting guide for everyone that is going to be voting in the next coming elections.
Thanks, Morgan. I'm Olivia, and I'm going to be talking about what people who are not 18 can do to help, even though they can't vote. So one of the things that you can do is you can educate others using the information you've learned in this session. You can do that by just, having a conversation, or you can do that through social media. You can use your social media platform to spread information in a quick and efficient way to all of your followers. I just think that's a really great resource for spreading information. You can also use Map the Vote to find the unregistered voters in your neighborhood and go door to door and give them a quick and easy way to register. And finally, of course, be sure when you're 18 to register to vote and vote. And until then, just keep yourself educated and make sure you know how to register so when the time comes, you'll know what to do. Now we're going to move on to a demonstration of how to use Map the Vote.
Hi, I'm Ian. I'm making sure my neighbors are registered to vote. Because I live somewhere that doesn't have automatic voting registration, lots of people in my community aren't registered to vote. To find those people and help them register to vote, I'm using the website Map the Vote, which uses public data to find locations where eligible unregistered voters likely live. This is what the website looks like.
Each of these green dots represents someone who might not be registered.
Ah, here's the house with an unregistered voter. Let's go talk to them. When you click on the green dot and Map the Vote, the website takes you to a script and questionnaire that'll help you navigate a conversation with your neighbor about their voter registration status. Hi, I'm Ian. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing all right.
I saw on a website that you are not registered to vote. Would you like to become registered to vote?
I would love to get registered to vote.
Excellent. That's great. I'm happy to help. Now, I will click the Submit Voter Registration button on Map the Vote, which will lead to a website, registertovote.org, where I can help them get registered. Could you type in your personal information, please?
Of course. Here you go, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. In a couple of weeks, you will receive your filled out voter application in the mail along with a stamped envelope.
that's already addressed. All you need to do is sign it, put it back in the mail, and then you will be registered to vote.
Yay.
Have a good day, sir.
You too.
And be sure to vote.
All
Thank you for joining us for our presentation. Had we been able to meet in person, this is the time we would have opened up the floor for questions and conversations. Since we are unable to do that, we have asked our congregation for their questions, and hopefully we'll address some of yours as well. Why is it important for youth under age 18 to be focused on voter registration? Because we are the future, and we'll be 18 before we know it. Also, it's important that we make sure others vote so that we can have our voices heard, even though we can't vote. If I'm going to college in another city or state, how can I register to vote? Remember, you can always use registertovote.org or go to any government facility like your local DMV. If you still want to vote for candidates and issues directly related to your hometown, you can always vote using an absentee ballot. How often do I need to re-register to vote? Or will I ever have to re-register? You only need to update your registration if you've moved, legally changed your name, decided to change political parties, or haven't voted in the past 4 years. Are there communities that have higher rates of not registering to vote and/or voting? Some states don't have automatic voter registration, making registering to vote more challenging because people must seek out other ways to register. What do I do if I lose my voter registration? First of all, don't worry. You don't have to have it with you in order to vote. Just make sure you have some form of ID. But in order to get it replaced, you can simply contact your local or state office. What if I am out of the country during voting? Great news. You can receive an absentee ballot by email, fax, or internet download, depending on the state you are registered to vote in. In recent national, state, and local elections, has the youth, young adult vote impacted result? Short answer, no. Young people have historically voted in much lower numbers than older Americans. Unfortunately, the 2016 presidential election was no exception. Their absence is especially noticeable in the elections at the local level. At what age can I register to vote? Well, that actually varies by state. You can go to www.usa.gov/voter-registration-age-requirements to find out anything concerning voting about your state. Does Map the Vote cost anything? No. Map the Vote is a complete free online tool that works on any computer or smart device. Is my vote, or who I'm voting for, public? No, it is up to you to decide who you want to share your voting choices with. Thank you again for joining us, and if you have a question, you can add it into our comments section on our YouTube link. Most importantly, educate yourself on issues in your area, register to vote when you are able, and remember that we want youth to make a difference.